Obrigado. Good morning. Is that working? There we go. Oh, sorry. One second. You get out of there. Go. Good morning. Today is Sunday, March 27th, 2022. Thank you for joining me for another ARiSE Sunday seminar. This week, I've had some things happen in my family. It's been a little distracting, so I'm maybe not quite as focused as I usually might be. So I apologize if things are a little less well put together this week. That's what we're trying to say. I apologize if that's the case. My grandmother had a medical emergency to start the weekend, and it's kind of stolen some focus. And unfortunately, with the whole COVID and it's the way the world is right now. Things are weird. I haven't been able to visit her. It's in the 3 days since she's been hospitalized because they're only allowing in one person per day, except for yesterday. Oh, and Friday when a man with gunshot wounds showed up at the hospital she's at, so they shut everything down. And then yesterday they weren't allowing visitors. So, anyways, it's been a bit of a saga. I'll try not to harp on it much, but that's in behind the scenes. So I'm not quite as focused as I usually am, and I apologize for that up front. But I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join me. I'm sure a few stragglers will probably wander in a couple of minutes. But there's no reason to punish you because they're running a little bit late. I've spent a lot of time thinking lately, maybe the last month or two, kind of watching the world, which I think is a mistake. I've told you many times that the media is not your friend, and that sort of the information portrayers in our society are not honest actors in the sense that their interest is not in making your life better. It's just in getting your attention so they can make money, right? But nonetheless, I'm human, and so like all of us, I fall into the trap sometimes of being curious or whatever about what's happening in the world. And obviously the news has been there's been lots of good news, actually. If you own stocks in dirty, skeevy pharmaceutical companies or in weapons manufacturing companies or in a variety of other government contractors, you've probably seen stock prices and therefore your net worth increase quite a bit. And it's something that's important to always remember, right? It's very easy to look at any given situation and focus on the negative, right? But there is also positive, right? Certainly, at least from a financial perspective, there are lots of people who are going to make money off of every crisis, really, right? When COVID happened, mask manufacturers made lots of money. Obviously, vaccine manufacturers, literally record-setting profits from the pharmaceutical companies, which, shock of all shocks, if you get to tax the world, then what a surprise that you end up very well off, right? Obviously, arms manufacturers have done quite well. I think gun shops are doing well the first year of COVID when all the riots and protests and stuff were going on and people were getting scared and they were buying guns, right? So there are always winners and losers to everything. And it's important to maintain the perspective that how positive our future is less a matter of what the future looks like and more a matter of how we position ourselves for the future that is coming. It's a very important thing to remember. There we go. So I've been thinking about this. And for me personally, the world events have been rather frustrating for me personally. And I find myself being distracted by these things, by being drawn away from my focus, if you will. And so I want to talk a little bit about fear. I think fear is a very important idea right now. Not only is it important to understand fear individually, how it affects me, what effects it has on me, and what are the physiological and psychological things I should look out for if I have goals, dreams, objectives, and desires that I wish to accomplish. Then I need to understand this emotional state, among others, right? And I think there's a great line on the internet. I have no idea who said it, but they say fear is false evidence appearing real. And I really like this line because I think that there's a lot of truth to it. Mostly fear is smoke and mirrors. That is, we're mostly not afraid of real things. We're afraid of hypothetical things, right? That is, if you go to the zoo and you see a lion or a tiger in its enclosure, you're not really afraid of it. You understand that it is a powerful predator that could kill you pretty easily, but it's in its enclosure and it doesn't bother you. But if you're walking through the jungle in Malaysia and you hear a rustling in the bushes, you're afraid that the tiger is going to jump out and eat your ass, right? That's the context, obviously changes, things. But there, in one situation, you see the tiger and you have no fear of it. And in the other situation, you see nothing, but your mind jumps to the fear that there might be a tiger there. Right? And I think that this is a key component of fears. Usually the things that we are afraid of the most are also the things that we cannot see. Right? There's a reason why in Jaws, the shark is only on screen for a couple of minutes. There's a reason why in Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs are only on the screen. The original Jurassic Parks, not the crap they make today. The dinosaurs, well, I shouldn't even say the original Jurassic Parks because 2 and 3 weren't very good. But the first Jurassic Park, which is an amazing movie, the dinosaurs are only on screen for a couple of minutes, right? Really, if you watch any good horror movie, which might be a bit of an oxymoron, but if you watch any good horror movie, generally the thing that is scary is only on the screen for a couple of minutes, right? One of the big exceptions I would say is that movie Get Out. Get Out, the horror movie a few years ago from Jordan Peele, where technically speaking, the scary thing was on screen right from the start. That was a bit of a that movie was certainly a bit of a departure from traditional convention, and also obviously Jordan was, using a more of a political force as his monster rather than an actual monster. Would not made it possible for him to do that. But fear is, generally speaking, that thing which we suspect but cannot determine, right? And it makes perfect sense that we evolved, to walk through the jungle or whatever and hear that rustling in the bushes. And anybody who heard that rustling and did not get afraid and retreat, there was a chance they got eaten by a lion, tiger, whatever. And over many, many, many generations, it just turns out that there weren't many people who didn't have that instinct of fear left, because that instinct is very useful for walking through the forest or the jungle or the savannah, wherever it is our ancestors roamed. Today, in our modern, very well-ordered societies where you don't need to worry about lions and tigers in bushes or even bobcats or even rattlesnakes, that instinct, while still valuable, is not nearly as useful as it used to be. And it's something that we need to be aware of, because the part of our brain that is responsible for creating that fear response is triggered off of things that absolutely cannot harm us. And in fact, our fear response to those things does more harm than does more harm than the actual thing would do, right? When you are torturing a person. I am told. I have no firsthand experience with torturing people. I will tell you right now, so I don't know this to be a fact, but I am told that when you torture a person, you use violence to induce fear. Then you interrupt fear with stress. And you rinse and you repeat until your victim or subject, whatever, breaks down. There's something about this combination, fear and stress, repeatedly, that our psychology is not particularly well adapted to dealing with. For those of you who are listening closely and thinking ahead, it becomes pretty clear, well, fear and stress is pretty much the only thing the media pushes. It's almost as if they're intentionally trying to brainwash us. I would make no such claim. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some media outlets probably are intentionally trying to brainwash you, but in general, you cannot make that claim about the media writ large. I'm not sure. Maybe, but I don't know one way or the other. Don't have evidence of that. What I do have evidence of is that regardless of their intentions, their behavior is such that the cycle is fear and then stress and then fear and then stress. And what we know about this cycle and what it does to people is it tends to paralyze people and induce inaction. And after inaction, it causes fear, and which is not really surprising because the whole process has been causing fear, and then compliance. That is, if you scare someone badly enough, they'll basically do whatever you tell them as long as they feel that it is getting them away from the thing that they fear. And that's not surprising. That is exactly how people work, or at least that's how small children work. And maybe we never mature much past being small children, actually. We just get bigger words. So this is the natural course of action for people being bombarded with, pardon me, with the kinds of information that we're being bombarded with, right? I'm not going to recap all the awful stuff that is happening in the world or that you're being told about what's happening in the world because you know it. And if you don't, then good for you. It's not worth knowing, to be honest, because there's nothing you can do about it. I will comment on one thing, though. I see people driving around with Ukraine flags. I see people driving around in Toronto, Ontario, Canada with Ukrainian flags on their cars. And I think to myself, every single time I see this, I think to myself, there goes somebody who is literally brainwashed. Like, what on earth is the purpose of flying a flag in support of the Ukraine in Toronto, as if anybody in Toronto is in favor of Vladimir Putin invading the Ukraine? Like, regardless of what you think about what's happening over there, and I personally don't really accept the mainstream narrative at all, myself personally, I'm still not in favor of Putin invading the Ukraine. So what point do these people think they're making? I don't know. I don't understand. But it goes to show, right, the compliance aspect, right? People are afraid now they're being told to support the Ukraine. So guess what? You see people with flags on their cars, right? Anyways, that paralyzing aspect of fear, that's really the thing that's troublesome. So we all have goals, plans, objectives, places we want to go, people we want to meet, things we want to do. And these things require action, and that action requires discipline. I think it's very easy for people to fall into the discipline trap. I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink. I'm sure you're all familiar with him at this point. He has a book. It's called Extreme Ownership. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It's an excellent book. And in it, he talks about extreme ownership. And it's not a new concept. He's not the first person to write about it. I can literally pull out philosophers from 2,000 years ago in ancient Rome who basically said the same thing. But he has his modern take on it, and he does a very good job. Him and his business partner, Leif Babin, they were both Navy SEALs together. They have this book, Extreme Ownership. Great book. Anybody who wants to accomplish anything should read this book, even if half of it's not true. The half that is true will definitely help you a little bit. You know, just be better. Be a better you. But it's easy to fall into the trap reading a book like that or like many others or watching. I was listening to Kobe Bryant just before I started the stream here, talking about his investment journey. I don't know if you knew this, but Kobe became a big investor after he ended playing basketball, right? And he's a person who's famous for his discipline, right? Very, very hardworking man before he died. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that discipline is just a matter of, well, I need to be more disciplined. And there is some truth to that, right? Don't make excuses. There's a book by Brian Tracy called No Excuses, and he talks about the fact that, you know, we are often making, we are often justifying our action, right? Instead of guiding our action, right? That we spend a lot of time taking action more impulsively than intentionally. And then we spend more time after we've taken that impulsive action rationalizing and justifying the action we've taken than ever spending time up front to think about the action that we want to take. And I think that it's very dangerous to tell yourself, well, I just need to be more disciplined, because that's not actually the reason that these things happen. That is, you're ignoring the psychological component that helps you to control your behavior if you just tell yourself, well, I need to be more disciplined, right? What is it that allows us to be more disciplined? What is it that enables us or engages us, right? What rewards do we seek, or what state of mind do we need to be in, right? To really ensure that we're as engaged in our tasks and our goals as we can be, and as focused as we can be, right? And, you know, one of the things is recognizing resistance. Resistance is okay. So resistance is a concept that is also from a book. Okay, Stephen Pressfield wrote a book. It's called The War of Art, and it's a book about creativity, essentially. And in it, he defines the resistance as those things which, no matter who you are and what you are trying to do, will arise in your life to stop or interrupt you from making progress on your project. That's resistance. And resistance comes in many forms. It can be external or it can be internal, right? Sometimes the resistance is, oh, you know, I'm tired, I can't do X and Y and Z today. And sometimes the resistance is, oh, you know what, there was an accident on the highway and I spent an hour in traffic, so I can't do X, Y, and Z today, right? The resistance comes in many forms, right? And we need to understand the adversary. Oh, sorry, I was trying to think of a word the other day and I just came up with it. The resistance manifests itself in many ways in many places in our lives, and its sole goal, essentially, if I can personify it, because obviously it's not a personal force, but to personify the force of the resistance, it is trying to maintain the status quo. That is, if you imagine there's a little man running around inside your brain, and he's sitting looking around and thinking to himself, things are good right now. I'm comfortable. I'm full. I'm happy. Maybe I'm even loved. Whatever, right? Whatever your requirements are. He's looking around and saying, I've got all these things. Let's not leave this cave. I could get attacked by a tiger, a lion, a grizzly bear, another human, whatever, right? And so that's the resistance. The resistance is there fighting you, saying, hey, look, life is good right now. There's no reason to go take action, make life different. That could be dangerous. And so this is a force that is in all of our lives. And it is a very seductive and very clever force, because it'll come to you in your moment of weakness, right? When you are tired, when you've been working for 16 hours and you still have 2 hours of work to go, but you're tired, it'll come to you and it'll say, you know what, we're tired. It's been good. You've done 16 hours of work. There's no need to do those last 2. Let's just sit on the couch and have a beer and go to sleep. And you know what? Sometimes the resistance will win. You all know it. You can all think of moments in your lives where that is 100% true. And that's nothing to beat yourself up about. You know what? We all lose the battle sometimes. But we need to be aware of the dynamic, right? And do our best to control it, right? And to emphasize our ability, right, to succeed, to push ourselves, and to pursue our goals, right? So I'm afraid, me personally, for my own investing journey, I am trying to invest in real estate. And right now is a fearful time. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe the people who I admire are wrong. Maybe the goals I've set are wrong. Maybe the path I'd like to walk is the wrong path. Those are fears. Are any of them real? Yes and no, right? I mean, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe the path I've chosen isn't the right one. It's possible. The problem with those fears is not that they are incorrect per se. It's that the only way to determine if they're valid is to test them, right? Is the path I've chosen the right path? Well, I don't know. How long did you walk it for? Right? How long did you walk it for? Did you walk it for a month? For a day? For a month? For a year? For 5 years? For 10 years? You know, different paths lead you different places over different time spans, right? Obviously, real estate investing is my focus here today with you. The real estate investing path is not a 1-year path. It's not a 2-year path. It's not a 5-year path. Really, it's a lifelong path. Once you start walking that path, you're probably going to walk it at least until you're ready to retire. That might be 20, 30, 40 years, right? So we have to appreciate that some journeys are obviously very long. They have their ups and their downs. Maybe we'll spend a year wandering in the desert like Moses did, you know, but eventually we'll get to our desired place, right? Our end goal, if you will, or you know what? Actually, you won't make it to your end goal. That I can guarantee. You will never make it to your end goal. Whatever vision you have in your head right now, that's not where you're going to end up. You could end up somewhere better or worse, but you won't end up exactly where you're imagining, because, you know, our imaginations they don't track one-to-one to reality. So that's just not possible. But you'll end up, and you'd be surprised where you end up if you just make a concerted effort and push, right? So instead of worrying about what I'm afraid of, I need to ask myself better questions. We need to understand the moments when we take action, right? One of the things that I think, one of the biggest obstacles for everybody listening to me right now, and everybody who's going to listen in the future, for the few people who might join me on YouTube one day, no matter what your goals are, right? You need to be asking yourself the questions that enable you to take action, right? Because those things that enable you to take action are the things that will make your goals happen. And for a lot of people, the challenge that they think that they need to deal with in starting their real estate journey, or in some cases in continuing their real estate investing journey, is they need money, right? The financial obstacle, that is false evidence appearing real. I don't have enough money, right? The reason we need to ask ourselves better questions is exactly because of this resistance in the real estate investing journey. I don't have enough money. Do you have enough action? You see, how badly do you want something? One of the amazing things about life is no one has enough money. You ever ask people if they have enough money? You should ask people in your life. Just ask them. I mean, it's such a silly question. It's already answers itself, right? That's probably why you never ask this question. But if you ask the people in your life, do you have enough money? I'm willing to bet that almost universally, because there's always a few weirdos, but almost universally, everybody you know will say, no, I don't have enough money. Because no one ever has enough money. There's never enough money. It's a fantasy that you get to a place where there's enough money, right? The question is, do you feel comfortable spending the money you have? Or do you feel comfortable borrowing the money from somebody else to spend, right? What is interesting is I know a lot of people who would tell me that they don't have enough money to invest in real estate, but they're carrying around a $1,500 cell phone that was financed. That means money was lent to them by Rogers or Bell or Telus or Wind or Kudo, whoever, right? They're walking around with this financed cell phone, driving their financed car, right? Where did that money come from? Isn't it amazing that money magically appears out of nowhere when you have a good purpose for it? That is, you buy a cell phone on a 2-year cell phone contract with a 2-year repayment plan, with a month-to-month schedule on how you're going to pay that money back. Do you see how clear this picture is? A person has a contract with a month-to-month payment schedule for exactly how you're going to return every cent to them. And lo and behold, strangers who have never met you will give you money for a cell phone. I don't have my cell phone with me, do I? Oh, I do, but it won't. I was going to show you my cell phone. I'm usually very good with my cell phones, but this particular device I've accidentally dropped while riding my bike, dropped while at the barbershop, dropped it all over the place, and it's all smashed up as a result of it because I've been very clumsy with this particular phone. I financed the phone because why the hell not? I have good credit, and there's no reason for me to give them my hard-earned money up front, so I financed the phone too. Now, I'm a little different than your person who's got no money and is financing the phone because I can afford it and they can't, and so therefore I'm engaged in good debt and they're engaged in bad debt, but ultimately we're in the same position, right? Rogers, or well, in my case, Rogers, who lent me the money, right? And actually, they may have partners behind the scenes who really lend the money, but whatever. Ostensibly, Rogers lent me the money. They lent me the money on a depreciating asset that they knew probabilistically. Can I show you how smashed? Well, you can see there's a corner that's smashed, right? But there you go. They lent me money on a. Think about. Like you really need to think about this. They lent me money on a depreciating asset that they knew I was very likely to smash. The probability of high wear and tear was very, very high, right? And they still lent me, oh, I don't know. Let's say this phone, well, the phone had an MSRP of $12.99, and I think I paid $15 up front for it or something like that, plus taxes. So they basically lent me $1,000, if their Mickey Mouse math is to be believed, because probably this phone's really like $700 or $800. There are some things that are going on behind the scenes, but ultimately, on the face of it, they lent me $1,000 on a depreciating asset that they knew I was probably going to smash, and lo and behold, I did. If they wanted to come after me for their money, right? If I told them I'm not paying, they have no recourse whatsoever, right? I just throw this phone in the garbage. What are you going to do? Are you going to garnish my wages? They have no recourse, right? And yet they lent me that money. So when you're sitting there with your mindset, with your false evidence appearing real, oh, I don't have enough money to invest in real estate, but you have enough money to buy a phone that you're probably going to destroy, and there's a good chance they're not really able to compel you to give them their money. You see, when you have a very clear plan, the world makes things possible for you. In this case, with the cell phone, you don't have the plan. Some smart person came up with the plan for you, so you don't have to deal with it. And they formalized it, and that makes it really, really easy, right? But if you found the right people and you came to them and you said, you know what, I want $100,000 of your money, or $100,000, was that $1 million of your money, whatever. Here's my plan. Every single month going forward until you have every single dollar repaid to you. Here's your security. Here's an appreciating asset that produces income every month, right? And you put all these things together. You're telling me that in this whole wide world where people are willing to give you $1,000 for a phone you're going to smash up, and they're willing to give you $15,000 for a car you're going to smash up, that there's nobody who's willing to give you a couple $100,000 for a house that makes money year over year that you're going to pay them back on? You see, false evidence is appearing real when you tell yourself that you don't have enough money. That is the resistance, taking advantage of an external factor to convince you that you can't proceed on the path or the journey to your goal. So we need to ask ourselves better questions. We need to ask ourselves the kind of questions that cause us to take action. When you made an offer on your last property, if you made an offer on your last property, what was it that caused you to take action? What was it that got you excited? What was it that made you think of what was possible? I think for a lot of people, their focus should be on what they're proud of. Maybe it's your kids, your family, your career, your spouse. It's kind of a weird one, but hey, whatever. You know, your partner. Whatever it is, maybe it's your body, right? You take great physical pains to be fit and healthy. Whatever it is, maybe it's your credit score. I don't know. Right? We're all proud of different things. But whatever it is, think of the things you're proud of, like really and truly proud of. And think about how happy or content they make you feel, confident even, right? It's easier to take action when you're feeling confident, right? And it's easier to take action when you're feeling proud. You know, when a person is afraid, they might hide their face from others so as to not share their emotional state. When a person is proud, do they hide from anybody? No, not really. That's not how people behave. That's not what the emotion of pride means, right? And so we need to focus on those emotional states that are most likely to generate action. Why? Well, because thinking and talking, which are two sides of the same coin, right? I would argue that a lot of people are really bad at thinking because they're really bad at talking, and that a lot of your thinking happens when you're exchanging ideas with other people, because that's one of the ways that we learn and exchange ideas, right? But thinking and talking are two sides of the same coin. They're passive. Regardless of how they make you feel and blah, 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 they're not accomplishing anything in the material world. You need to take action. You need to buy houses. I'll show you here in a second. I've got some properties that I want to take a look at in Sudbury as examples of taking action and where that takes you. Now, you don't just want to take any action, of course, blah, 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 whatever. That's the whole be prudent, learn what you're doing, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, like I'm looking at who's here on this seminar with me today. There's no newbies to the seminar. I mean, right? Everybody here who's listening has been listening for some time. And when's the last time you made an offer? Right? I hope the answer is it was yesterday, right? I suspect it wasn't, right? And I understand, and especially looking at the market right now, like the market is scary, right? The prices are really high. We don't know what's going to happen with interest rates and inflation and all these various factors, right? And so it's very easy to sit there and be like, well, I don't know, man. I mean, you know what? Maybe they're going to hike interest rates a couple more times, and then, you know, housing prices are going to triple, and I'm going to lose out, and you won't. You won't. That's not what will happen. You know how I know that's not what will happen? It's really simple, actually. You very well might get burned in a market correction. Nobody is perfect, right? You know, Michael Jordan, Kobe O'Brien, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, whatever, Akeem Olajuwon. Nobody shot 100%, right? Babe Ruth. I don't know my baseball players very well. I only know Babe Ruth, but whatever. He didn't bat 1,000. Sorry. He didn't even bat 500, right? He was a superstar, right? So we all already know you're going to miss some of the shots you take. That's just fine, right? The thing that's going to separate you from other people, and the thing that separates, again, Magic, Kobe, Larry Bird, Babe Ruth, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, you know, go down the list, Thierry Henry, all these various great athletes, right? The thing that separates Thierry Henry from me, just going to pick on him, he's one of my favorite soccer players. Oh, Thierry Henry misses shots, and I miss shots. And Thierry Henry screws up deeks, and I screw up deeks. The difference between Thierry Henry and me is that when I miss a shot or screw up a deep, whatever. I don't know if I'll do it again the next time. We will see. When he does, he's going to do it again. And he's going to practice and he's going to try and be better. And he did it enough times to where eventually he very, very rarely screwed up the deke, and he very, very rarely screwed up the shot, right? But it's not to say he didn't. I mean, you still miss things all the time. Kobe O'Brien still missed things all the time, right? You miss things. That is how life goes. But the greatness is not in your hitting 100% of your shots. It's in taking 100% of your shots, or maybe 80%, whatever. It's in taking some high proportion of your shots, not wasting your opportunities, and understanding that you might miss sometimes, right? And that miss, it might even suck, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you might not buy something, and I don't know, let's just say you'll lose $150,000, right? And I know you're sitting there right now, probably without $150,000 to spare, thinking, well, Aaron, that would be a bit of a disaster if I lost $150,000. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I lost close to $75,000 earlier this year when the crypto market tanked. I mean, it wasn't cash in my hand, and it's still not cash in my hand. So did I really lose it? You have that debate or whatever. But on paper, I did. It didn't hurt me at all. I'm not saying that to brag or anything. I'm saying that to point out that as you work at it, each individual loss is going to cost you less and less, right? Because as you accumulate wins and gains, well, the losses, they'll just pair by comparison, right? Kobe O'Brien lost a lot of basketball games, right? Lost some championships too. But he won a hell of a lot of them too. And we won't remember him for the losses, but we'll remember those wins, right? That's how it goes, right? So you too, like, what, I guess you have to ask yourself, what is your goal, right? Are you trying to be a person who worries about losing $150,000? Right? And if the answer is no, Aaron, my goal is to be a person who can withstand that kind of loss, who has the kind of financial and personal fortitude that is not something that is going to break me or even necessarily slow me down very much. Well, okay, that's fine. That probably means you're going to have a net worth that's a few $1 million, right? For $150K not to hurt you too bad, right? And how's that going to happen? By taking action. Constant, repeated action. It doesn't happen one time. And so, maybe you take a bite at the apple this time and there's a worm in it and you spit it out, whatever, grab another apple. But if you don't, right, if you don't take the action, if you sit there and you wait and you say, oh, there'll be a better time. Yeah, there will be. I guarantee you there will be a better time. I'll tell you a quick story. In 2007, during the housing crisis, the Florida housing market went to pieces. Now, I want you to really think about this because this is a really amazing story, really. When the Florida housing market went to pieces during the subprime market collapse in 2007, 2008, people in Florida started literally walking away from their houses. There were neighborhoods, right? Maybe you'd have like 15, 20 houses on the block, and maybe only 2 of them would be occupied. The banks had foreclosed on, or people had walked away from the rest of the houses. It's absolutely crazy. It's an insane thing to think about, really, what happened back then. And it's insane to think about when you think about Florida right now, which is booming. It just goes to show how in the course of 10 years, things can turn around so much. I mean, Florida now, the property values there are just insane. And it's not a result of it's partially a result of a bubble, but it's a result of some other things. Some political and social things that are causing people to migrate there, that are really causing some really positive indicators in the Florida economy, right? Anyways, during this crash, these houses were foreclosed upon, and they were worth nothing because nobody would buy them. The banks couldn't sell them to anybody. The banks also couldn't manage them because they had thousands of them. They didn't have a way, they didn't have the infrastructure in place to manage them. And as many large corporations, and right now BlackRock Capital is the newest one that's going to find out, have learned the hard way, it's very, very hard to manage individual properties without individual attention. And as a large corporation, you don't really have that. So buying up thousands of houses, if you're a big corporation, as investments, sounds like it's such a smart idea, but it isn't. At least historically, it's never worked for the companies who've tried it. We'll see if it works for BlackRock this time. But anyways, at that time, the banks didn't know what they were doing, or how to do really there wasn't a way for them to manage these properties in absence. So they tried to sell them. Of course, there's nobody to sell them to. So there's a story of this little girl in Florida. She was 11 years old at the time. And of course, 11-year-olds are idiots. So they don't know. They don't know not to do things. They don't know about the risks. She'd been working since she was a little girl, you know, paper route, that kind of thing, saving up money. And so she had, I think it was $4,000 or $5,000, sorry, to her name was her like net worth, this little girl. And so with her parents' help, she bought a house in Florida. The house cost $22,000. So she had to put, I think it was about $4,000 down, which she did out of her paper route money. And then she had about $1,000 left over, which her parents helped her to spend on painting and cleaning the place up because it was, you know, it was a little bit of a mess, a little dumpy. Right? And then she installed tenants in the house. You know, and the tenants, they paid a couple $100 a month. Nothing crazy. But of course, her mortgage payment was like, I think it was like $1,000 a year. She had a 15-year mortgage, so she didn't go crazy. She put 15-year mortgage on it. So it was like $1,000-something a year to mortgage the place in payments. And she got some tenants for a couple $100 a month. And she started making money, cash flowing. She actually ended up buying, I don't remember the total, well, I didn't follow the story all the way through. I remember at the time she ended up buying a couple houses. So I know that by the time she was 14 or 15, she'd acquired 3 or 4 properties. And then I don't know where the story goes after that. But I really want you to think about that. Okay. These houses for $20,000 a pop. Well, probably the last one wasn't that cheap, but nonetheless, right? You want to guess what they're worth now? I don't know, but a lot, right? I don't know, but they're worth a lot today, right? She could not have predicted that Florida was going to turn around the way that it did. In fact, maybe she didn't. For all I know, she sold those houses short of this great renaissance that Florida is going through, right? She's a 24-year-old girl now or a 22-year-old girl now, something like that. So first of all, smart and lucky, great parents. Girl, obviously, you know, you can't say enough about what a truly awesome story for that young woman. She's probably going to have a great life. But you can see how she was able to take advantage of an opportunity, right? That other people obviously lost out on, right? And so she was able to grow very, very rapidly, right? Sometimes you get to be that person because you're participating in the market and you're seeing those opportunities. If you sit there, again, on the sideline, being afraid, anxious, concerned, whatever, right? Well, lots of people did that. There were lots of people who had $20,000 who could buy a house. I bet some of the people listening to me right now in 2007 could have bought a house in Florida. It might have been kind of difficult for you, but you probably, I mean, you know, you didn't know how. Maybe you didn't know the lawyers, you know people in Florida, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it was in any way easy or particularly feasible for you, but I am saying that you financially had the capital and you didn't do it. And I am going to tell you that there were people who were in the market who it was easy for who didn't do it. And I'm going to tell you now, there were people in that market who it was not easy for, but they did it, right? And who could it be harder for than an 11-year-old girl, right? Like if you really think about that, I mean, the fact that she's a girl is kind of irrelevant, but an 11-year-old person, period, right? When you're 11 years old, you're going to go invest in real estate? How? Who's going to take you seriously? Who's going to give you a loan? Who's going to, you don't have a credit score, right? How are you going to qualify for a mortgage? The subprime mortgage crisis just happened. Banks literally almost went bankrupt because of their lending practices, giving out risky mortgages. So which bank are you going to go to give out a risky mortgage to a little girl? And yet she was out there kicking ass and taking names, right? So what's your excuse? Why aren't you out there kicking ass and taking names? I'm going to show you now, if I can. Oops, that didn't do what I expected, but that's okay. I'm going to show you now my entire screen. I just want to show you real quick. Here's some listings from Sudbury. I haven't analyzed them. They're just listings. I just want to show you them real quickly. I've been doing this seminar now 20-something months, I think. If you'd been listening since the beginning, when I started this seminar, we were talking about sixplexes in Sudbury for $300,000. $400,000, maybe if it was in really good condition, maybe $450,000 if it was purpose built. Between $50,000 and $75,000 per unit. On the screen in front of you is 86 Riverside Drive. A property that, if memory serves, I've seen on sale more than once. more than once. I don't know why. I don't know if it keeps getting bought and sold, or if the person keeps trying to sell it for more than it's worth and then taking the listing down. I'm not really sure which one it is, but I'm pretty sure I have seen it multiple times. Anyways, this beautiful purpose-built brick sixplex, very nice property, is on sale in Sudbury for $900,000, and it's got a conditional pending offer on it already. Oh shoot, what did I do? So from 300 or 400 to 900 in 2 or 3 years is what this property is. Now, does real estate usually do that? No. That is definitely, I don't want to say exactly outside of the normal per se, but it's not usually likely that things will go that way. Oh, my battery's getting low on my laptop here. It's not power mode on, but okay, yeah, that's good. Can I close some snap? Doesn't matter. The things appreciate over time. Time was your ally in this particular market, and it was in London too. I can show you some properties in London here, just so you don't, I mean, I know you already probably mostly see my point, but here is 350 Melvin Avenue. It's another sixplex. It is a little bit cheaper than Riverside Drive, and nobody has claimed this one. Right, I keep forgetting I can't do that. Nobody has claimed that one yet, but Melvin Avenue, if you look at it right here, it's pretty decent, just an average sixplex. Could use some work on the inside, but which part? That common area is always ugly. We gotta upgrade the common area in Bessie because it's ugly. So that's always a thing. But the property is not too bad. It's gonna cost you $750,000 approximately, right, or around like $120 per unit or so. This is what happens basically is people buy, they get involved, maybe they lose in the short term, maybe they don't, but the market goes in their favor in the long term, right? Why does it do that? There's a lot of reasons, and it doesn't need to, right? There are such things as ghost towns and Detroit, and things happen, but the market, life really rewards action. If you're sitting there passively, it doesn't reward that. If you take action and you're wrong, you may lose money. That's true. But you're completely focused on the wrong thing, really. That money that you're losing, you might as well just look at it as tuition. Because while you may lose money in the transaction, you will learn about yourself, about the transaction, about the people that you need to engage to complete the transaction. And all of that knowledge is integrated and carried forward into your next project, right? You don't get to a place where $150,000 loss doesn't hurt you without A, probably having lost some amount of money less than that, right? But B, without learning the skills necessary to generate enough income that $150,000 doesn't bother you. And the only way I know of to gain skills is to take action. To go back to my example of Thierry Henry and Kobe O'Brien, two very skilled men. When they were 7 years old, Kobe probably wasn't very good at dribbling a basketball, and Thierry Henry probably wasn't that good at dribbling a soccer ball, right? It's ironic that we use the term dribble in both soccer and basketball, but you use your feet in the one and your hands in the other. Anyway, it's a quirk of English, I guess. But right, neither of them would have been very good. They had to develop those skills, right? And if you hear Kobe tell it, right, his first year in the league, right, Kobe was perhaps skillful enough, but he hadn't conditioned himself enough. And so he found himself getting tired, and he was unable to make the playoffs that first year. He shot a bunch of air balls in his last game of his first season, right? And he attributes that to having weak legs. He wasn't well conditioned, right? But there is the Kobe O'Brien. Today we know him as Kobe O'Brien. His first year in the league, we would have watched him shoot air balls in his last game of the season when the chips are on the table, all the cards are down, and everything matters. You'd watch him shoot air balls, and you'd think, oh, what a loser, what a scrub. This is just another kid, all hype, right? All hype, no fire, right? Now, today, right, 20 years later, with the benefits of hindsight, Kobe O'Brien is one of the greatest basketball players to ever basketball play, right? He's in that top 10, 15, 3 in some people's opinions, whatever. He's up there, right? No question, right? But he had to take action, including all the L's along the way, to be that champion. And in real estate investing, it is no different. There is no magical formula that means that you will never lose. I can't give that to you. There isn't such a thing. What there is there is good judgment, proper analysis, and good preparation. After that, there's just action. And if you don't take it, you can never be the little girl in Florida. You can never be the person who buys in Sudbury for 3 and sells for 9. You can never be the person who bought in the GTA for 6 and now has a $2 million house, right? If you don't take action, you miss out. Now, could interest rates rise and prices fall? Yes, they could. Is it a real risk that you should be worried about? I hope I've been clear enough over the many seminars. It is absolutely something that you should take seriously, for sure, of course. But that's the whole point of this, right? Is you're not taking action willy-nilly. You're not buying a $2 million house at this point in the market cycle and just loading up on debt that you can't cover, right? That is not prudent, right? But if you buy a house today whose rents can more or less cover the property, and let's just say, I don't know, let's say it's $500 short a month, right? You can afford that, assuming that you can, right? Then you can afford that $500 shortfall. That might be a fine investment, right? And yeah, if interest rates go against you and that house goes from being valued at, I don't know, let's just say it's valued at 800 and it goes down to 6, that $200,000 loss, that hurts in the same way that my cryptocurrency loss hurts. But if you don't sell the house, you haven't lost the money yet. And if the house breaks even or collects rent, then you're okay. And remember, if you bought that house and it was negative $500 in rent, and then the market collapses, like, I'm not trying to be funny, but think about all the people right now who are real estate agents who are making money hand over fist, right? Because they're selling a property, I don't know, $1.5 million, 3% of that. They're taking home $45,000 off of one sale. They're making 3 sales a year. They're going home, $135,000 a year annual income kind of a thing. Let's just say that we have this market correction that we are probably all a little bit worried about. And prices fall 30%. Are those realtors going to be working? No, they won't be. Will they be generating commissions? No, they won't be. People at first are not going to sell into that environment. Like, they're literally just going to stop selling, and all those real estate listings are going to dry up, and all those real estate professionals, lawyers, realtors, paralegals, etc., home inspectors, probably construction people, all down the line, a lot of them are going to lose their jobs, right? Or their businesses are going to slow down, right? Some of those people are responsible, prudent. They'll be fine. They'll ride out the storm. Others are living at the very edge, and they're going to go bankrupt, right? Regardless, if right now you're making $135K per year selling real estate, and so you qualify for a $1.5 million mortgage, next year, when you're not making any income, you don't qualify for that mortgage anymore, you're going to have to get rid of that house. Now, the prices have fallen by 30% or so you're going to eat it. Now you're 30% underwater on a $1.5 million house, so if you've lost $450,000 or so, right? Now, your down payment on that house was less than $450,000, so you basically have zero money coming out of this house, and you must sell it because you don't have an income, right? Where do you think that person ends up, if not knocking on your door to see if they can rent from you, right? And you're doing a good thing because you're helping them out because, they weren't responsible or prudent or they made a mistake or whatever, however you want to look at it. Now they need a place to stay, and you can provide that to them, right? But the thing that people don't talk about is that that's happening all across the economy, right? It drives up the price of rent. So if you had a house that was breaking even before the crash, it's going to be profitable into the crash, right? If you had a house that was profitable, it's going to become more profitable. Now, Ontario is, very, very landlord is not very friendly to the landlords. And so it's harder for you to realize that increase because you've got to turn over the tenants before you can raise your prices, right? You can't just jack it up on the people who live there. But in general, right, if you're being prudent and you're taking action, then the market will reward you, right? If you take 60 shots and 45 of them go in, you're Steph Curry. Right? Sorry, no, I said 60. That'd be 75%. You're way better than Steph Curry. I'm so sorry. If you take 100 shots and 45 of them go in, you're Steph Curry, right? And he's the greatest three-point shooter of all time, I believe. He broke the record maybe a month or so ago, right? So we all have to recognize, and we all have to get over this fear. I think personally, myself, it's something I struggle with, and so I hope this has been useful to you as well. That the fear, that thing that paralyzes you, the anxiety, the thing that's stopping you from taking action, you need to figure that out. You need to take action. And that action needs to be making offers, right? Get some offers accepted. And all the other doors will open up for you when you start doing that. And believe me, when you say, I don't have enough money, you do. You do. Even if you have zero money, you might be that 11-year-old girl in Florida. Remember, people are being given money to buy cars and phones that there is no way that the lenders have an ability to recoup their money if those people decide to peace out with it. And yet the loans are still being made. So if you come to somebody with an action plan that is clear and specific and is backed by an asset that makes money, oh, the money is there for you. I know because I was in that situation. I was in that exact situation. I got burned by partners. We had already agreed to buy the damn house. Closing was coming, and literally we're looking at each other thinking we're going to get sued. We're going to get sued for not holding up our end of the obligation, right, to buy this house because we don't have any money. We made it work. The money appeared. It did, like magic, because when you have a deal, that's what money does, right? So don't focus on those things which are not important. Right? How much money you have, maybe your credit score, these types of things, they're not particularly important. Don't worry, don't get me wrong, they're awesome in the sense that it feels good when you have a high credit score and people are willing to lend you lots of money and you have lots of money, so you don't even need the money that they're willing to lend you and blah, blah, blah. Of course, that might be a goal or a dream of yours, and it's certainly something that's worth pursuing. But remember, it's not the focus. The focus is on the skills and the confidence to know what to do and to know that you can do it. And, I need you to understand that you've all built lives here in Canada, lives that you are at varying levels of pride and love with, right? Can you move? Doesn't matter where. I'm going to pick Florida because I've been talking about it all day, but, you go to Croatia for all I care. Can you move there, transfer your skills, and carry on your lifestyle? Right? Can you do that? Because most real estate investors would be able to do that, right? That's the skill that you're learning or trying to learn or working on or developing, right? Investing in real estate is a universal skill. It's really the skill of investing. Once you've learned it, you will know how to invest in businesses. Obviously, there will be some specifics you got to work out, but you'll know how to invest in businesses. You'll know how to invest in stocks. Again, some specifics to work out, but you'll know. You will know how to invest in cryptocurrency. Again, some specifics that you got to work out, but the fundamentals are all basically the same, right? And you can transport those skills anywhere you want in the world, and they can make you a lot of money, right? But the fundamental thing is you need to have the confidence to take action, to do the thing that makes the money, the investing, right? The offering, the buying, the finding, the putting together the deal, the constructing, and the understanding, right? And if you're not taking action to develop that skill, you're not moving towards that point where you're unshakable, where $150,000 loss is not hurting you, right? So I think that we're at a time right now in the market, especially in Canada, especially in Ontario, where there's probably a lot of fear about what is going to happen with interest rates in the future. And I think that when the correction happens, if and then when the correction happens, and I say if because there will probably be a correction, but there's also a lot of inflation, so it's going to be interesting to see how those two things interact and what that ultimately does to prices, right? The people who are going to get burned are the people who cannot transfer their skills and don't have alternatives. So, for example, if you work for, I'm going to pick on my boy Armando, because Armando literally used to work for Honeywell. So let's say you work for Honeywell, right? You're an HVAC technician, let's just say, right? Good job, good skill set, definitely transferable. You don't have to work for Honeywell, but you know, it's not like it's universal. You can't necessarily take that skill set, I don't know, to I'll say Jamaica, right? They don't necessarily have a lot of HVAC down there, right? Because a lot of the houses don't have air conditioning and they have no need for heating. So, right, it's not an entirely transferable skill, but it's got its uses. You can take it around to different places, right? The people who have those types of skills, that is, skills that are oriented around companies, and they're really, especially if they're geographically kind of pinned in with those skills, they're the people who are going to get burned really, really hard when there is a market correction, right? Because they don't have an alternative to this particular market. And so if this market turns south on them, they could end up being losers. And if they end up being losers, they have no alternative, right? I'll contrast that against myself. I'm no crazy successful person. You know, if the market turns against me, I just said I can lose 75,000. I can. I probably can't lose more than that. Right? It would hurt immensely. But I'm going to contrast a little bit, right? Just that I, for example, and this is true of Armando too, but I am exposed to multiple markets with regards to real estate. Well, really, even ignoring real estate, right? I'm exposed to cryptocurrency, which is going to travel against the dollar getting inflated. So whatever happens with inflation, my cryptocurrency investment should move against the dollar as inflation reduces the dollar's value. So there, I have a hedge against inflation, right? Then I'm invested in real estate markets outside of the GTA. So if we see a bubble in the GTA, and I think we can all agree that, I don't know if it's a bubble exactly, but there's something funky going on with the prices in the GTA. Well, I'm exposed to other markets where maybe if there's a crash in the GTA, maybe those markets might move against that crash, or maybe they might be indifferent to the crash, right? Goodness knows, right? I'm sure the price of butter in the Ukraine right now is very, very high, but it hasn't affected my price of butter, right? Because they're disparate markets, right? So I have increased my exposure to multiple markets, which in theory would increase my risk, but it actually decreases my risk because now I'm not dependent upon one market performing, right? And you can't do that until you've gained the confidence to really go out there and make the offers and make things happen so that you can be diversified. Not necessarily diversified in the sense of, oh, I must have differing assets that I diversify and do. So I'll have, I don't know, pork bellies and real estate and utility providers that I've diversified into. No, that's maybe not the diversification. Maybe intensify on your investment, right? I invest in real estate, particularly these, but not all in the same place, right? When the Florida real estate market crashed and you could buy a house for $20,000, you know, the Manhattan real estate market was doing just fine, right? So different markets perform differently. There isn't a global, mind you, there are idiots who are trying to make our world work that way, and they are really misguided, but there is not a global failure, right? There are market failures. The markets might be regional, municipal, provincial, even federal, but they're not global, right? So we all need to practice our skill set by taking action, so that we can remove our dependence on a single individual market and diversify across many marketplaces using the same skill set, so that you can eventually get yourself to a position where you are not, well, I'm going to use the term, you're anti-fragile, right? Where you are resistant to shocks or disruptions in the marketplace. I'm going to stop there. No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to stop there. I just want to tell you something that Kobe Bryant said. These are the 4 questions that Kobe Bryant asks himself before investing in a business. And this was for a business, so this was not for real estate. I think it's very similar, but it is a little bit different. Like I said, the fundamentals are the same across really investments. The specifics are obviously specific, right? For example, you've got principal recapture in a real estate investment, right? Which maybe you don't have in a stock investment, but you have dividends, right? So there are things that are different, similar but different, right? Anyways, Kobe Bryant asked himself these 4 questions. 1, do you understand the business? I can relate that to real estate investing, right? Do you understand how to analyze a real estate asset, right? And I hope the answer for everybody is a resounding yes, I do, because we've covered it many, many times. You all have my spreadsheet. You can see the math for yourself. You can do it right there. So yes, we do understand the business, right? Is there an opportunity for you to bring value, or for me to bring value, right? Kobe speaking about himself. Is there an opportunity for me to bring value? Well, if you understand the real estate asset, then you know, yes, there is an opportunity for you to bring value in the form of money and attention. You can paint, you can renovate, you can fix problems, you can get rid of tenants, you can hire the right management team. There are opportunities for you to bring value, right? Do you understand the underlying asset or assets? So again, he was talking about a business, right? So that business owns assets. Do you understand those assets and how they are employed? If I can relate that to real estate investing, you've kind of already dealt with that by understanding the business. The property is your asset, and you understand that the property has taxes and insurance. It has certain inputs you have to give it, and it has certain outputs you can expect from it. You're gonna have to set aside money to repair and maintain it, and et cetera, et cetera. All things that you've considered to make sure that you've taken care of that underlying asset. And then finally, are the people involved focused or obsessed with their goal? Do they have a good culture? That's not really a question that applies much to real estate investing, because you're not investing in an organization, you're just investing in the asset. But the bigger your team gets, the more that does become a question, right? If you're self-managing everything, that's not a question at all. You're the team, you're the culture. But as soon as you're bringing on management, right? Well, what is that management team like? Are they obsessed? Do they want to be the best? Are they trying to win? Are you going to need to motivate them? Or are they go-getters, self-starters? You're not going to need to do that, right? Those are the 4 things that he would ask himself before making an investment. So I hope that this has been beneficial, eye-opening, inspiring. I really hope that you make some offers. I'd love it if you made an offer and you sent me an email or a text message or something just saying what you offered, That'd be so cool. But either way, go work on your dream. There's another quote here I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to let you go. I don't know where it's from either. It's one of those nebulous internet quotes, but I've seen it in several places, and it says very simply, if you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to work on theirs. If you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to work on theirs. Isn't that the truth? So don't let false evidence appearing real stop you from taking action. Take action. Grow your skills, expand your capabilities, and build your dream, whatever that may be. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining me today, Sunday, March the 27th. And I wish you all the best this week. And I hope I'll see you again next week.